2, 1.
All right, here comes the test. It's working.
It's working! It's working!
Hey guys, what's up from Roll, Minnesota, your state of skate? Hey, I'm Butch Lehman, and today we have something totally different. Today we're checking in with former professional rollerblader turned YouTube science phenomenon with almost 700,000 subscribers. I'm talking about Nick Yuhas. Now, Nick is an amazing individual who's repurposed his skill set over the years, moving from professional inline skating all the way over to reality show host on a Netflix series, and even a YouTube host of a science creation channel. He's a pretty cool dude. And one of the things that I think is most interesting about him is how he's merged his passions in this particular video, taking the best of rollerblading and science and building something that I think we've all thought about building at one point or another, a pair of rocket rollerblades. That's right. So today's gonna be a fun one. Let's check in with an old seasoned rollerblade pro and see what he's up to in life as he builds the impossible. Let's do this.
When I was 12 years old, I got a pair of rollerblades for Christmas called the K2 Fatty. And I was super stoked because this present was a hot item at the time because this was during the rise of rollerblading, or as ESPN would call it,
those were the days.
Aggressive inline. From about the ages
So
of
video
12
games would
to
call it too.
17, I totally fell in love with skating. In fact, my only childhood dream was to become a professional stunt rollerblader. So when I turned 18 years old, I moved to San Diego, California to pursue this lifelong dream.
That's
Just
dedication.
1 year later, I entered into the Aggressive Skating Association's North American World Championship and placed 7th. Top 10 turned pro, so I became a professional stunt rollerblader.
All right, well, so far I'm already seeing some connections. So first of all, that picture of him when he was 12, that was a wrestling picture. And I can relate to that because I was a wrestler all through school, through high school, and I even coach now. Secondly, he got his first pair of skates when he was 12 for Christmas, and so did I. I didn't get K2s. I actually got the TRS Access rollerblades, and it was like the best Christmas gift ever. Loved those skates. But I think he's got a similar experience to all of us growing up, where we wanted to validate ourselves in the rollerblading industry, get better, and kind of have that lofty dream of being a professional rollerblader. In this case, he was able to be very successful at it, and it's great to see people live out their dreams, regardless of who they are. He's got the rail transfers, rocking those TRS Tory Tressitor skates. Soul 360 Soul. Ooh, Woodward East. I've skated that ramp. So much fun. I'm really bummed about what year is it this year, but we'll get back out there.
After that, I signed a contract with Team Rollerblade USA and skated professionally until I was 24.
This is nuts.
I eventually stopped skating professionally when I entered into my 3rd year as a pre-med biology student. I just couldn't really figure out how to spend my time focused on one or the other.
Turns out that I was really doing one or the other. I got so into the science, man, that I couldn't skate anymore.
I had to focus so intently on school, there just really wasn't enough time to do both. But I did graduate with a 3.92 GPA. Fast forward another...
I mean, I think that's a struggle that a lot of us can relate to. Growing up rollerblading at a young age, then as we get older, we take on more responsibilities, whether that's school, family, kids. Any of those things jeopardize our interest and our passion in rollerblading, and it's very difficult to negotiate a proper balance between those. What I really like about Nick here, though, is even though he's had this successful career, he's still able to maintain some of his passion for rollerblading and infuse that to what he's doing in these other venues. So, a lot of respect for that. That's awesome, Nick.
10 years, and while I don't do topsoul, 360 topsoul, 540 out on handrails anymore,
so
I
good.
still do skate for fun sometimes.
Filmer Hawk Trackler. He's another legend.
I'm homeboy Jeff. There you go. And we're just going to kind of tool around and do some easy tricks, just to kind of get in the feel.
Yeah, show us what you got. Do you still have it?
Back like 20 years, by the way. But this feels
all right. By the way, shout on those skates. Are those the BAM bricks?
And one day after a blade sesh, I started thinking, would it be possible to strap large rockets on the side of my skates?
It would be.
And would this give me enough juice to actually go any faster? The
Debatable.
first step was to go down to Sunshine Distribution, my old sponsor, and see if we could get the proper gear for this experiment. Jeff Akers, everyone. How do we actually know each other?
Just from skating.
I've like literally known this guy for almost 2 decades. Back into the warehouse. This is like for skaters.
Okay, I imagine that warehouse is looking a little bit more empty at the moment. Can't find Razor SLs anywhere. They're sold out of all the skate shops. Sunshine Distributions, if you're watching this, I need into that warehouse. Hook me up.
Let me in. Let me in.
I need to find some skates, and I need them soon.
Going to like Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. You just have
Good analogy.
rows and rows of product that like junior Nick Yuhas used to dream of. All right, here we go. Oh,
Definitely
wow.
kid in the
Good color,
candy
too.
store phenomenon.
Kind of match your skates.
I like those wheels. Those color looks amazing.
Do these go faster?
Teal?
It takes a little bit more energy to get them up to speed, but once you actually get the momentum going, it's easier to keep it going with the large.
I think Jeff is just apprehensive to say that strapping rockets on.
Well, I mean, that's one way to do it. Got training wheel frames on the
I just don't
sides.
really trust your skill.
The second step in this process was to hit up my good buddy Rob to create a CAD image of what we were looking to design from this
That's
really
actually
terrible
dope. That's
sketch that I
really
made.
professional.
The genius, the man, the myth, mystery, the engineer, the welder. No, that's
The engineering quality of that
So my
design, the
idea was to
3D
create
design, is
something
actually a
just
lot
rather
more
than
extensive than I was
Your force only
thinking.
on one side, and it's off the axis of the wheel, so you'll be introducing leverage that's going to be trying to push it in this direction.
It'll be fairly easy to build. I don't know how well it's gonna work. There's a reason that no one's built rocket skates up to this point.
Rob did a fantastic job creating something way better than what I drew on paper. We made these frame wings out of
Yeah,
aluminum and added
that looks
spaces
pretty
in
awesome,
between
actually.
as a weight reduction measure. We then added an adjustable fastener to the top of the
Little bit
wing
janky.
so we could use different sized rocket engines. We're doing this because rockets double in power every time you go up a class, which are labeled alphabetically.
I mean, how many of you have built model rockets before? When I was growing up in school in junior high, everybody had to build a rocket for shop class. And we actually had one day of the year where everyone took their rocket that they built outside and we had a class launching. And it was one person after the other. And the teacher would have a checklist of grading materials. And they'd look to see that your rocket flew, that it went straight, that it covered a certain height. And the biggest thing was that the parachute successfully deployed so that the rocket could drift back down to Earth safely. If it exploded into a massive fireball, you probably weren't getting a very good grade on the project. But if your rocket made it back to Earth safe and sound, you're looking at an A. Awesome class, loved making rockets, but that's sort of the extent of all my knowledge of rocketry right there has come from one class in junior high.
We're starting at C and we're gonna go up to E. Since Rob pointed out that most of the force would ultimately end up on the chassis of the wheels, we made sure to connect the rocket engine wing to both the bottom of the boot for support, but also the side of the skate frame to get the most energy transfer straight to where it would matter.
I like how
The
that
next step
picture,
in
though,
this
had duct
experiment is
tape
to get
all
some
over it.
hands-on experience with rockets because up until right now, I've never fired a rocket.
See, man, you gotta
we went to
fire the
Funk
rocket
Bros
first.
house or Funk Bro.
Look at this, we got the Funk
House
Brothers,
They
or
have a ton
one of them.
experience with action sports, so I thought this made total sense. So I figured we'd actually go out to the desert first, shoot off some model rockets, then get into the rocket rollerblades.
Seems like a good strategy.
3,
Wow.
2, 1.
All right, well, it looks like they're going to get a passing grade on their rocket. I mean, to be fair, though, that was a pre-made rocket. They didn't build it themselves.
I'd say that was a success.
Dude, that was great! I feel really comfortable, even with just that one shot, that I think it's time to work up to the actual rollerblades.
Let's point out the
Before this
fact that
did.
Nick
Alright,
had
so
safety
this is a
glasses
rocket
on.
rollerblade with some
Meanwhile,
training wheels
Corey
inside,
Funk had
and then we
like
added
snowboarder
this
goggles.
Steel L bracket and then taped it all
Look at
the way
that, we're
across.
using
Now,
the
the
ground
idea for this is
control.
we just wanna get a good idea about
What are those,
what
feather
the
light frames on
rocket will
both
do
sides?
with the rollerblade itself. A lot
like
of
training
good
wheels.
information will come out of this test, and then we'll be prepared to actually strap them on our feet. In 3, 2, 1.
All right, here comes the test. It's working.
It's working!
Until it makes a hard left turn into the Volkswagen. Yeah, that's hopefully not what it'll do when it's actually on their feet.
That was much louder than anticipated.
Maybe a little bit easier to maneuver when you have somebody controlling it.
The test was successful. It went in a straight line.
Somewhat.
Kind of.
But don't worry, we'll point ourselves in the direction we need to go. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. but I won.
Yeah, so what? Yeah, you
I think that means Corey's going first.
Okay, all right, there we go. Settled. So let's do this. Rocket rollerblade.
I mean, why have the former professional rollerblader go first when you could have the professional scooter rider go first, right? Now here's where the science breaks down.
I think it worked pretty well.
You don't want them to explode on you. All right, so I think this was a really good idea in theory to build the rocket power skates, but this is where the science breaks down. Ultimately, you need enough forward thrust from your rocket in order to displace the amount of gravity pulling down and the friction from the ground itself. And so proportionately, I think we need some larger rockets in order to propel these skates forward. So I don't know if they're going to be able to come up with anything that's large enough for that. But I think Nick has the right idea in starting with a little bit of forward momentum and using the rockets to contribute to that. And that's what we're going to see here in a second.
We didn't get a ton of like forward thrust because C rockets are actually pretty small.
There you go.
So we're going to bump up now.
That's
to
what
the
I
D,
said.
Which is actually twice as powerful as the C rocket. It's also the one that we shot.
I think you're going to need
with it
something
just
bigger than
solo,
that.
Like with the rollerblade just as one. Once we get a little bit more comfortable with how it all works, we're going to devise a system to where we can actually just shoot the rocket while moving forward already. 3, 2.
I like how they have the tin foil around the cuff to further distribute the heat. It's like a little heat shield. And the knee pads. I mean, for a former pro rollerblader too, that was an amazing stance.
You really just have to keep your
Look at that.
gravity, like forward.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, not a lot of boost, but I feel like the next best thing, throw on those E's, get going down the hill a bit. I think you could actually feel it.
That might work.
Yeah. All right, so for our very last test, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take
the final frontier now.
Weave the wire
Oh man,
through these fireproof
that looks
bands
dangerous.
Through my shirt, it'll come out of the sleeve.
We're
here,
gonna put
so
electrical
essentially I can
ignition
already have
through my
motion. I can be
pants.
in control
Said no
of when
human
the
ever.
rockets actually engage. In 5, 4, 3.
So this is kind of interesting. He's starting on a downhill run up, so naturally the speed is already going to be there, and there is going to be some acceleration just from gravity alone. But this is probably the best take on the situation with the rocket skates, is to use that as an additional thrust rather than all of the momentum.
So like, because you're already moving, I think it's actually easier while you're already moving.
Yeah, the
I
thing
mean,
is that
naturally.
we're like 150-pound like humans.
Yeah.
So for those little things,
Exactly.
to move us at all is crazy. But once you get something rolling, it's got momentum, so it makes everything easier.
It really does give you a little.
Corey
boost.
knows
It's like
physics.
being
Good
in a
job,
video
Corey.
game. Okay, there we go. It worked.
All right, guys. Well, that was Nick Yuhas and his rocket-powered rollerblades. I think it's a really cool idea, and I think it's really interesting how he's going about his career at this point. Rollerblading can't last forever for everybody, and it's awesome that he's able to take his passion for rollerblading and combine it with his current career path as a YouTuber, making content that's scientific, analytic, and fun and interesting for younger audiences. And ultimately, if he can provide that sort of exposure to rollerblading and to scootering and to action sports, I think that's commendable. So shout out to Nick Yuhas. I love what you're doing, man. Wish you nothing but future success, and thanks for the entertainment as well. It was a good video. Anyway, guys, I'm Butch Lehman of Roll, Minnesota, and until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and get out there and do some rollerblading. We'll see you guys next time. Peace, everybody.